Okay, part 2. Where was I? Oh yeah. Mary Surratt provided binoculars. Woo! It's John Wilkes Booth. So anyway, April 14th arrives, and Booth and his cronies have their plan to do this horrible deed, and Booth is going to kill the president in the theater. He went to see a play that night to relax and kind of celebrate everything that was going on. And so he was going to do that. And he snuck into the theater earlier in the day, and he set up, like, I think it was a music stand that he put to block the door so, like, nobody could come in. And he drilled a little peephole into the door of the box. And, you know, everybody knows what happens after that. His buddy Lewis Powell, or Payne, or whatever, I forget which name was an alias, was going to kill Secretary of State. Now, the Secretary of State, William Seward, was considered the easiest target because he was in bed after a carriage accident. He, broke an arm, and I think he broke his leg, and he, busted his jaw or something. So he was a very sick man. So he's, bedridden. So Powell disguises himself as a messenger from the doctor saying that he has medicine. And he manages to talk his way upstairs, and the son stops him, and he goes to shoot the son of the Secretary of State, and the gun misfires. So he beats his brains out. And he ends up stabbing the Secretary of State within an inch of his life. And he also, I think the son had a concussion, and somebody else was stabbed real bad, so he just left this horrible bloody massacre in this house, and then he took off running. The guy that was with him was supposed to guide him back to this meeting point with John Wilkes Booth, heard the screaming inside the house, and took off. Then the guy that was supposed to kill the vice president chickened out and went and got drunk. I went and stayed with a cousin for a few days. And he eventually got caught. So the movie focused, you hear about this kind of stuff in the movie, and you go through the trial and stuff, and Powell shows up at Mrs. Surratt's because they're looking for her son, thinking that he was the one that slaughtered the Secretary of State. He comes up with this story, he happens to show up while the marshals are there. And he makes up this story I was just coming here to dig a gutter or something like that. In reality, that was basically the only house in Washington that he knew there were people that he could trust, because he didn't know the city too well. He was from Florida. So basically eventually they're all caught and tried, except for John Wilkes Booth, who, after being on the run for 12 days, gets shot in a barn. So he doesn't get tried. He's dead. And the wound was very similar to the president's, ironically. And he lingered for a while, and then he finally croaked. So his cronies were arrested and tried. Mary Surratt was also tried, but they were trying to also get her son, sorry. And he's hiding out with his wimp ass in Canada. According to the movie, he sought protection, sanctuary with the Catholic Church. Because Mary was a Catholic, and a lot of people back then were Protestant. They had they had all these misconceptions about Catholics. So, he sought sanctuary, and he was hiding out in Canada. Mary Surratt's lawyer was trying to get him, and maybe hoping that getting John would maybe set his mother free. Well, it didn't work out that way. And he filled out a, I don't know exactly what the, writ of habeas corpus, which is the right to have a trial by jury, because they were all tried by a military tribunal. And since Mary was a civilian, she should have that right, even during wartime. Well, that wasn't the law back then. That didn't get changed until a year after her death. But I'll get to that in a minute. I might have to do another part of this. So, they go through this long trial. He writes the writ of habeas corpus. He thinks he's going to get, a retrial for this lady, and it's the day of execution. And nobody thought that they were going to hang her, because they've never hanged a woman in the short history of the country up until that point. So they're like, they're not going to, do anything to this woman. They're going to give her a life sentence maybe, and that's it. Well, they eventually the verdict is death by hanging with 3 other people. So the day of the execution, she thinks that, oh my gosh, my lawyer saved me, I'm going to get a retrial, and da-da-da. Well, President Johnson decides, no, she's not going to get it. I'm going to suspend this, and she's going to die with everybody else. He was probably under pressure from the Secretary of War, Edwin Stanton, who in the movie is kind of portrayed as a dick. So, I've yet to really get a straight opinion on this guy. So anyway, so she gets hanged. And I kind of felt bad for her, because in all my reading and everything, she really did not play a huge role, even in the kidnapping. That was all her side. She just happened to have a convenient place for them all to, meet and plot and whatever. So her low-life son eventually, a year later, gets caught. He had gone to Europe, and then he was actually eventually brought back to the United States and tried. He got the trial by jury of his peers, civilian court, that his mother was denied, and it was a combination of Northerners and Southerners, and they couldn't agree on a verdict, so he gets off scot-free. I was pissed. And they show him talking with his mother's lawyer, who had eventually quit being a lawyer because he was so pissed about this trial. And the lawyer walks into the jail cell, the same cell his mother had, and there's John Surratt sitting on the bed, and I'm just like, oh my god, I want to punch him in the face. So yeah, it was a really good movie. I like the portrayal of the characters. Like I said, Stanton was kind of portrayed as a dick. And, oh my god, the prosecution, there was just every time this lawyer had an objection, they're like, nope, you can't, nope, we're not gonna, side with you. We're not even gonna, remotely hear what you have to say, because they'd already made up their minds about this one, and about, everybody. So, yeah. Hold on for part 3.